friends, lovers, it's time to fight. It's time to protest.
Fight!
It's time to raise a little hell.
That's right.
It is Sunday. Friends, lovers, and welcome to 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir.
And Amy Nasir.
I'm Robert. This is my co-host, Amy.
Hey.
And we are so glad you are here. We need the support. We need all the support we can get. It is Sunday, June 21st,
Yes.
2020, the 173rd day of this interesting, exciting roller coaster of a year. And we haven't even gotten to election season yet.
That's right. The 2020 is hardcore.
Hardcore. 187 hardcore days until Christmas. 132 horrifying days until Halloween.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Fight the power.
That's right. And we're glad you're here. On this day in history, June 21st, in 1787, I'm told, the Constitution of the United States was ratified.
Ratified. That's
right.
radical.
It wasn't just adopted. It was ratified. Doesn't that sound better?
Hey, our proletariat friend Jennifer is online with us.
All right.
Truth to power. Speak to power.
Speak truth to power.
Speak truth to power.
That's right. That's what we do. Speak truth to you powerful people out there.
Yes, and Linda and Cynthia and our other comrade, Kim.
Kim's on. Awesome.
Yeah.
You will take the truth and you will like it. I think you will like it.
Yeah, I think you might like it.
On this day in 1787, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and ensure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our prosperity.
That sounds so nice and lovely.
We do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America.
Yes, it's lovely and sweet and fuzzy and huggable, all in a radical way. That's right.
That's just what I was thinking, in just those words. And, in accord with the Founding Fathers, today is Father's Day.
Happy Father's
So,
Day to
shout out.
Robert. Robert is a father.
Well, shout out to all the fathers out there, and to all of the fathers, the fathers of others, and the people who are honoring their fathers. Boy, that did not come out smooth at all.
You know what we mean.
But to those of you who actually have fathers, I hope you are thanking your fathers, celebrating your fathers, spending time with your fathers. And to those of you who are fathers, we honor you on this day.
Yeah.
It's also National Smoothie Day.
This is my clear smoothie. It's my water sandwich.
Why don't people just make fruit drinks? Why does it have to be good for you? Life is too short for that stuff. So,
Yes.
happy Constitution, happy Father's Day, happy Smoothie Day. What we are listening to this week, the podcast of the week. You may have already heard this one, or heard of this one. But
I
if
bet
you
you
haven't
did.
heard this one yet, after this show, and not before, you need to go listen to Sam Harris's latest episode, number 207.
That's right. Sam
Can
Harris.
we pull back from the brink? Now, if you've heard Sam Harris before, you may have some of the same criticisms of him that I do. And not
He's so choosy.
not just that he leans left, but that philosophically, for example, he's a hardcore determinist.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe in free will, which, if he's right, you
Which
can't
is
blame
silly.
him, because how could he help it?
Because he talks about choice with the people he interviews.
And yet he talks about all the choices we should
Strange.
make and all the things we should believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, not to pick on Sam, because this week you absolutely need to go listen to his show.
Which was called Can We Pull Back from the Brink?
That's right.
Yes.
There will be a link to the episode in the show notes. Happily, Sam Harris does also provide transcripts for people who'd rather read. And this one reads like an essay. You wouldn't know it from listening to him because he's a good reader, but the transcript, you'll actually catch a few things you might not have caught from the audio.
Right.
An outstanding show in which he reviews the current state of affairs, current events, something we don't usually spend a lot of time with on 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir,
Yes.
featuring Amy Nasir. Go listen to that.
He talks
episode.
about the protesters and Black Lives Matter and all sorts of things that a lot of people won't talk about. A lot of people are too afraid to touch, so he has a lot of courage in talking about.
He doesn't just give you the other side
Right.
of the story, which people aren't willing to talk about. He gives you the full context.
Yes.
It really is startling how good a job he did putting it all together.
Right. And
Definitely a must listen, and
Yes.
because Amy and I and those in our inner circle, which includes all of you, are migrating. I lost my word. We are navigating our way through these challenging times.
Yes.
Harris
Carefully
lays out a good context, essentially a map you can work with.
Yeah.
So do that thing. Go listen to that podcast. I think I may have heard about this one initially from Yaron Brook's recent podcasts, and I'm including those in the show notes as well. As I said before, during these challenging times, Yaron is one of the few people who's 100% right. Sam Harris, because he leans left, some of his ideas of solutions
Yeah.
need to be ignored or at least firsthand thought
Or
about.
they need to be rethought or reconsidered, considering individualism, considering the fact that we are individuals and
That's
that we're
right.
not monolithic groups and,
So
yeah.
So for all the value of Sam Harris's podcast, definitely listen to Yaron's recent shows. Links will be in the show notes: Policing Violence and the War on Drugs, and especially Thriving in a Time of Madness.
It sounds like a Mel Brooks movie.
Well, and it kind of goes along with our show last week, and he broadcast that one on the same day. So that's suspicious right there.
Very suspicious.
But he's so good that
Yeah.
I'm not going to accuse him of anything untoward, because
It's just
that
like
would be silly.
great minds think alike.
That's right.
I'll just say that.
Don't listen to me. I'm only serious. Definitely take those in. This week we're doing our own protest.
Yeah.
We have protest signs,
Yes.
and
Your mind matters.
Mostly
Your
we're,
mind matters.
I think we're mostly protesting the way most folks are protesting, because
I'm trying to put my angry face on.
I like it. I'm not going to interrupt that.
I make such great faces.
So talking to Amy about things she wanted to talk about, she sent me her notes on what she'd like to see in the podcast.
Yes.
And they were all outstanding, but one of them said, I went forward a page. One of them said, I do actually have notes for this, believe it or not.
Notes
I
for
don't come up
this.
with this stuff. I come up with most of it off the top of my head, but not all of it. So Amy wrote, efficacy in the face of a pandemic, or American goodwill. These are her notes. We will eventually gain the same confidence in dealing with a viral pandemic as we have in dealing with a flood, a tornado, power outage, or hurricane. The difference is that the source of the natural disaster is not the weather, power grids, or levees that break, but being close to other people who might be contagious. It's so difficult to deal with this. Amy really should be reading this because she wrote this. It's so difficult to deal with this, except her gestures. How cute is that? She does the best gestures. It's so difficult to deal with this. I could stop now and then you get to hear this 4 times. It's so difficult to deal with this, as it throws us out of the context of goodwill, benevolence, and having a can-do spirit in non-sacrificially helping our neighbors and family. Working with people can become dangerous, and that has a severe demoralizing effect on our psychologies
Yeah.
and our view of life,
I so agree with that.
because you wrote it. Now more than ever, it is revealing just how much of a value other individuals are to us.
Yes. And we have an opportunity to find creative ways in dealing with our loved ones and our friends and people we want to reach out to.
Yes.
Yes,
An
we have an
opportunity.
opportunity to be
An
creative.
opportunity.
Yes.
You see why I wanted Amy to talk more about this.
Yeah, but that was really good. That was an excellent reading. You know, I was lip reading while you were reading, so I looked like I was saying something, but
Now,
you
how
were
many
also
things
saying
did I
something.
read differently than you would have said them?
You did.
This
a good
is
job.
great. This is great fun. Write something down, have somebody else read it, and you'll find wisdom you didn't know was there. And you'll also say, wait, no, that's not right. Why did you read that like that?
John says, "Go Amy with the Milli Vanilli." But it was reverse Milli Vanilli because
That's right.
I wrote it in
That's
the first place. Oh, and Jennifer says that Yaron's going to be on at 8 o'clock, and she's going to be there.
Excellent.
So,
Well, we will be too.
yes.
I mean, we'll be listening. We won't be.
No, we won't
On.
be there.
He hasn't
Exactly.
invited me on for an interview
Not
yet.
yet.
There we go.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we're such revolutionaries here that we.
Well, I
we
love the
definitely-
revolutionary outfit.
Yes, we definitely need to
It's
be.
hardcore. I don't know if the
interviewed.
camera shows even the safety pins there
Yeah, the
and
safety
the
pins.
swag. And what does this one say here?
This is my most controversial pin. It says, "I'll smile when you're dead."
Love it. Get
Which
your
sounds-
protest signs out.
And it's funny because
tell them
it
what you
has
really think.
it has such a very nihilistic meaning at first, and then you start thinking about it, and you're like, actually, that's kind of a nice thing. If somebody you love passes away, from old age, and you think about them and you smile, so you can tell them, "I'll smile when you're dead." It's not. I know.
Yeah, just explain it to folks and they'll feel much better about
And
that.
I'll
I'm
explain
sure you're right.
even more complex things like the death positive movement and, things like
Oh,
that.
well,
Look
we'll-
that up.
Well, yeah, we need an episode on death positive.
Yes.
You've done a whole talk on.
I have done a whole talk on that.
Yeah.
Actually, that's kind
Okay.
Oh,
well,
hey.
do I have? Sorry about that, folks. See,
It's
we
just-
don't have the kind of technical difficulties that other shows do.
Right.
Until
Except
now.
for this exact
Except for- How
time.
does that get
No, I was
unmuted?
throwing my voice is what I was doing.
very good,
I was
very good.
lip syncing before, now I'm throwing my voice.
So in line with
Anyway.
what you wrote,
Yes.
it's when things are at their worst that we need to be at our best.
That's a great quote, and I've used that many times in my life, and that's certainly helped me.
One of our super genius friends,
Yes.
folks who post.
One of
and
our many super
well,
genius friends.
We got a few folks who, when they post, they don't post, what they had for breakfast. They post a short essay, Facebook, Twitter, social media. And one of our friends posted about the new normal today.
The new normal.
And that phrase has
Down
been getting
with the new
thrown around
normal.
in the most disgusting of ways by people who want to tell us to lower our expectations and just get used to limitations. So he was rightly outraged with that and Jim wrote some very good
Yes. Thank you, Jim.
some very good ideas on the subject. But it was funny because even before he wrote that, I had that what's the word for it? That Nasir reaction.
You know what we're talking about.
Because I said the new normal, completely not knowing he was going to be writing about that, the new normal should not be an ominous, top-down, imposed reduction in standards.
Right.
The whole idea of a new normal, nor an assault on our freedoms.
True.
A few thousand
Yes.
years ago, back in the Greek times, or the biblical times,
The toga times.
whatever times you believe in. Well, we'd had fire for
And
thousands of years.
we had wheels.
But a few thousand years ago, campfires were replaced by oil lamps
That's true.
and candles and burning tallow.
Yep.
Ew.
Well,
No, tallow is cool. We could tell Greenfield Village stories about candle making.
yes.
And not much more than a century ago, the oil lamps and the candles were replaced by arc lamps and light bulbs. See, that was a new normal.
That was a new normal.
The new normal was a thing of beauty and utility.
Yes.
Plagues.
Plagues, hooray!
Plagues? What are plagues? Oh, yeah, right, we've got one. Plagues were eliminated by penicillin, by vaccines, by modern sanitation practices. The 21st century new normal is long life, health throughout our lives, and vitality, good lives.
Yes.
If someone tells you that imposing lockdowns and requiring masks, limiting the scope of our activities and the range of our interactions is the new normal, the answer is that's not a new normal. That is merely the first steps to achieving mastery over a new threat.
Mastery. We hear that word again.
Yeah, well, somebody says, wear a mask in my store right now, this month, and people treat it like they're being told, you must wear a mask for the rest of your life, you must be sheep.
This shop owner must be a statist.
It's the strangest thing.
This shop owner must be a communist revolutionary.
These are first steps as we try to figure out what the hell to do.
Yes.
The
very
real
confusing.
new normal, the real new normal
Yeah?
will be more and better information about novel viruses. We're already seeing better treatment regimens, a better understanding of effective medicines. We can expect one or more vaccines, much better readiness for any future threats.
Really?
Yes.
That sounds great.
Neither cowering in our homes nor blindly rebelling against any and all safeguards. See, I'm alienating everybody on both sides of this issue.
Oh no, we're not going to have any more friends.
I'm alienating anybody who thinks there are two sides to this issue.
Yeah.
Neither cowering in our homes nor blindly rebelling against any and all safeguards is anything like a new normal.
It's true.
In this, as in all of man's responses to life's challenges,
Yeah.
the new knowledge, the new responses, the new practices, the new technologies, the new medicines, the new normal
Yeah.
is going to be awesome.
It's going to be fun, folks.
It's going to be great.
Yes.
Every challenge that is thrown at you is another opportunity for a brilliant performance. And whether that's the individual scientists who will be the real heroes, or all of us in general who will do our best through all of this, we will look back on this and say, damn,
Yeah,
I did a good job.
I've learned a lot just these last 3.5 months, and I've talked to people that I would not have been able to talk to or wouldn't even think of talking to if it weren't for, our Zoom sessions and things like that. So it's been very interesting, disorienting, but there have been a lot of value experiences that I would not have had if it weren't for this particular situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of making the best of the situation. It's a matter of being your best through
Yes.
the situation.
Yes, being, what was the slogan again?
It's when things are at their worst, that's when you need to be at your best.
Yes.
If you've ever had a loaded weapon pointed at your head by somebody who was willing to use it, then you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever been, in a robbery, in my case, it would have been in the restaurant days. But if you've ever had your life under immediate threat,
Yeah. Robert,
there are two
yeah.
responses you can have to that. I've heard that some people fold
Yeah.
or act badly. I haven't seen that. What I've seen is when somebody points a gun at you, you immediately enter a sense of heightened awareness, and you become the very best you, and you will think through every action and every reaction and everything you're going to think, and all of it with the intent of minimizing that threat. Well,
At least Robert Nasir will.
everybody will, but a few exceptions. When it happens
Yeah.
to you, bear those words in mind and say, oh, things are at their worst. I need to be at my best.
Let me heighten my sense of awareness here and figure things out. And of course, if you've had that experience, your mind races, but you have to keep thinking. You have to keep
Yeah.
strategizing as you go. If your life is in danger.
Yes.
Kim says, when are you guys running for office?
Oh, we've got such strong candidates this year. I don't know if we could beat either of those either of those esteemed gentlemen.
Oh, yes.
That would be tough. But thanks for the vote of confidence. So if the new normal isn't the impositions that we're facing, but where we end up
Yeah.
on the other side of this, what would it look like this year, this confluence of events, the viral pandemic and the social upheaval, which we're going to talk even more about next week than we will this week.
Yes.
If you had total mastery
Yeah.
of you, yourself,
What would you
your
do?
response, your choices, Yes, what would this year look like?
What would the best you do?
That's right. What would this look like if it were a growth opportunity? If this year is trying to teach you a lesson,
Mm-hmm.
what would that lesson be?
Yes, that's a good question.
Yeah, feel free to answer in the comments
I
there.
have many things in my thoughts of my own about that. A lot of lessons, and yeah, we have a lot of comments here. Shall I go through them? Let's
Let me
see.
just ask
Yeah.
my last hypothetical here.
Hypothetical, everybody.
If 2020 is teaching you to be stronger,
Mhm.
more steadfast,
Yeah.
more indomitable, more bulletproof,
Mm-hmm.
or is 2020 teaching you to be more flexible, more adaptable, more resourceful? Or is it teaching you to be more relentlessly kind, more unbendingly generous, more resolutely benevolent?
Yeah. More
Well-
focused on your values. Yeah.
Obviously, I think we should all be capitalizing on all three of those dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
But what are our friends saying?
Oh, let's see here. Let's see, Millie Vanilli, two intellectuals who are happy, bless them. Thank you, Mike. And John, about my pin, I think, he says, wow, dark.
Yep, we're willing to go to those dark places. Oh, and you've only seen the beginning of that. And next week, oh my God.
Narendra?
Mm-hmm.
I do not know whether I'm hearing your words or listening and seeing some kind of song and expressions.
Oh my
You
gosh.
two are so cute. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I'll try to be more poetic.
And
We'll have
then-
to listen
and then-
more to Luke and Kirk, and then we can latch on to their prose and
You
poetry.
can read a poem and then I'll just mouth it and it'll be great. It'll be like double trouble. Let's see. Yes, and goodness, yeah, there's a lot going on here.
So Amy
Yeah.
and I have now attended 2 parties in the last
2 parties.
3 months. Well, since March 8th. March 8th was a convenient marker, as we saw with our friends Steve and Christine. They Might Be Giants, the band,
They might be giants. March 8th
at the Majestic
Yeah.
in Detroit,
is packed full of people like sardines.
downtown Detroit, where the weak are killed and eaten. And yeah, the Majestic is a
Changed a
general
bit.
admission venue. There's no seating. You just stand there in a room packed with people and watch a band. March 8th.
March 8th.
We were still doing that on March, and it really kind of pushed the limits. People
Yeah.
were already starting to isolate, but
And we weren't entirely sure, but
it
we
was
went.
a real borderline there.
Yep.
So 3 months, 2 parties. And one was a birthday party. We talked about my daughter's birthday party. The other was a going away party we attended yesterday.
Yes.
Each party was outdoors and included coronavirus-aware, socially distanced practices.
Hand sanitizer.
Now, wearing a mask at a grocery store can seem silly, but you can shrug that off. Modifying my behavior at a party is far
hard.
more disorienting.
So difficult.
It takes some perspective
Yeah.
to keep that from being discouraging and annoying
Or-
and depressing.
Yeah, or even I think I might be offending the host if
So many dynamics, so
so
many
many things going on there.
reminding myself that my choices are choices, that my stance is my stance, is crucial. Reminding myself that the new normal is the same as the old normal. It's me, judging the situation, determining the best course of action, and resolutely following through on my judgment. No fudging, no second guessing, no regrets, and a minimum of explanations.
Yeah.
And learning from the frustrations and the anger and the disappointments. And then letting
Letting them
those things
go.
go.
Yes.
And those are among the things that current events are teaching me or reminding me.
Right. Yeah, it's you always have to be at your best when things are at at their worst, and even when things are very awkward and when things are very even contentious, you have to keep using your own best rational judgment. You always have to keep checking in with yourself about what is the right thing to do here.
We will talk more next week about fighting.
Oh, are we?
Because we will be addressing the protests and the riots and the coronavirus and more of the clash in dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I would say do not let current events, don't let challenging times make you cynical.
True.
Or fearful.
Right.
Or angry beyond what you are in control of, what you decide your stance will be.
Right.
Otherwise, you're letting the people who are imposing on you win. And I don't want to be a marionette. I don't want to be on the strings of those who would put me in a state of mind I don't want to be in.
But yeah, you'd certainly have a choice about ignoring those folks, perhaps, or
answering them.
or just
answering them, dealing with them. Choose your stance, take your stance, follow the policies you set for yourself, and then after that, you're right, let them go.
Yeah.
You know, Gretchen Whitmer, I've written to her, I've followed the impositions that she's made, I have protested against that, and then I do the things and live my life. I know people who are bothered by these things repeatedly. It's not making them happy, but it's also not making them better soldiers in this fight. Well,
that's true.
I won't belabor the point because I don't think many people who listen to this show make that mistake.
So we are going to be talking next week about more about the protests and things like that. I do have some notes that I wanted to say about it, but I don't know if it would be appropriate now or wait until next week.
Well, you could ask the crowd. We've got quite a chat going on, but what do you have in mind?
Oh, I was just going to talk about how not to be a pawn of other people's worldview. But I don't know, it's kind of depressing. It's about some protesters who choose to be violent and those who encourage them to be violent. Yeah. But I think that's probably good for next time. Not unless anybody wants to hear. If you do, please chime in.
Well, I can tell you in advance that next week we will be talking about the 3 languages of politics and the 5 languages of love.
Ooh, and he's gonna interweave them brilliantly.
You won't believe it when you hear it. It will be the best, or maybe the worst thing I've done so far.
Yeah? Well, you know what? If you don't take chances, you're never going to grow. And sometimes failure is necessary for success in the future, right? So, yeah. So Kim says she would like to hear it, what I have to say.
I think...
I don't know, what do you think?
I'm looking at your notes, and I think you do want to hear what Amy has to say, because I'm going to be talking about political theory and a theory of sexuality and romance. Amy is writing much more directly about current events, and I think I haven't read the whole page here, but
this is something
I think you do want to hear this. You should go for it.
All of my life.
Put the camera on Amy.
When? Starting when I was a young girl.
Cameraman snoozing on the job there.
Actually, okay, so, I came from a rough background. You got to lock your doors at night, stranger danger, all of that stuff. You've got to protect yourself. And it was a little rough. So I had a very cynical view when I was younger. And I learned a lot of things about...
Can you imagine that? Cynical Amy?
Oh, my gosh. Oh. Well, I was a Nietzschean existentialist punk rocker, if that gives you any indication, right? So I had to, really come up with some good ideas. I had to really figure things out. I had to untangle a lot of issues in my own thinking. So, when I think about, for instance, the people who are are protesting, and some of them, white or black or whatever background they have, becoming violent, vandalizing, setting cars on fire, beating up strangers, all of that. I think of not just them, but those people who might be encouraging them. And I think about how heinous that is. And I'm glad that Black Lives Matter has been promoting primarily peaceful protesting. And that's good. However, I kind of think a lot of the of violence has been sugar-coated or tried to be justified, kind of with that sugar-coating of being woke or being or having social justice enacted, and that's really bad because and this is why, just a little context here. I am not, okay, this is very, very not 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir here. It's kind of political, but there are certain things that I'm against, namely the death penalty, namely needless wars or needlessly sending out young men and putting them in a situation where they have to be violent and kill people and experience all sorts of horrors. So I'm entirely against people who encourage violence, because what you're doing there is you are committing a grave injustice. You are putting a lot of people who don't know any better, a lot of young people, and encouraging them to do something that's morally wrong. And what I wrote here is that when somebody does something morally wrong, even if they are young, they know it. They know that they've done it, and that it is wrong. And they start seeing themselves differently. Their relationship to the world changes at that point. They see themselves as having crossed a line, and they'll become comfortable acting on their short-term emotional whims into the future. And they won't give themselves a chance at redemption either. They'll just keep seeing themselves as somebody who is a cynic, who is a thug, who will act on their short-term desires, not thinking into the future, and they will say to themselves, I'm a bad person, therefore why bother with myself and bettering my life? And they'll try to rationalize away their choices with, as I put it, the siren song of determinism. This happened to me, therefore I can never get out of it. Well, I'm living proof that you can grow up really, really poor, have a single mother, have really no family, and get out of that situation. That's certainly part of my background. And so there's often no future for a person who tries to justify destroying property and beating up strangers by telling themselves it somehow represents justice. It doesn't. In fact, the people who are in that situation, they've degraded themselves. Now they're seeing themselves as something less than a human being, something less than rational. They've abdicated their reason. They've abdicated their ability to think. They've stopped expecting that from themselves. And they've basically become pawns of those people who are saying, oh yeah, looting, violence, vandalism, beating up strangers, yeah, that's just people being angry because of past wrongs or current wrongs, not to decrease the importance of looking at current wrongs, because that's very important. And in this case, yes, you can say all lives matter, but in this case, if we want to respond rationally to these situations, especially with the police brutality against George Floyd, yes, you do say Black Lives Matter, because that is the context, and you don't take it out of context necessarily if you want to express your view that, yeah, his particular life does matter. And as Sam Harris in his podcast, which you should all listen to, says...
Oh, they will.
You hopefully sometimes, in some future day, hopefully, skin color is going to be as relevant as hair color or eye color. It's going to be unimportant. It's going to be boring. Who cares? Someday, hopefully. But the first thing that we need to really say here is your mind matters. Your mind matters, because this brings into the context that everyone is an individual. Everyone is capable of reason. Everyone. So there you are. Support the smallest minority, which is the individual. So
Ayn Rand said, for those of you who care about minorities, never forget that the smallest minority is the individual.
Yeah. So power to the individual.
That's right. And that relates directly to what we'll talk about next week, as will a good 3/4 of what you just said.
Yes. So hopefully I didn't lose any friends there.
I'm sure you gained listeners, people who want to hear more.
Yeah. So don't degrade the people that you care about. Don't incite them to violence. Don't promote that. Promote reason. Promote persuasion. Promote communication. And that's that. Thank you very
Good.
much.
Well, thank you for that. We may end up with a 6-minute show. Post-it note of the week.
Yeah.
Every week we have a post-it note. Something to reflect on, something to inspire, something to put on your bathroom mirror or someplace you will see it throughout the week. And this week, my note says, obstacles do not block the path. They are the path. Now, I should have looked this up, because what I did is I stole it from one of the post-it notes that folks left at my GlowCon lecture.
Oh, yes.
So if anybody can identify who left this or who wrote it originally, if somebody did, it may well be the person that wrote it. Obstacles do not block the path. They are the path. It's not only a great reminder that you will gain self-esteem, you'll gain insights, you'll gain knowledge, you'll gain capabilities by overcoming obstacles. It's also a great reminder that whatever we're going through right now, whatever obstacles we're meeting right now, this is not the end. This is just one point in the journey.
Yeah.
And sure, there are obstacles. We'll face them when we do.
Yes.
What's coming will come, and we'll face it when it does.
J.K. Rowling.
Shout out to J.K. Rowling, who deserves your support. We may talk about that next week, too.
Yeah.
Yes, because that relates not just to the 3 languages of politics, but to the 5 languages of love.
Ooh, good. Yeah, I do have a thought about J.K. Rowling.
What is your thought?
Well,
tell.
It relates back to the idea that you don't degrade yourself by being violent. And those people who do promote that are basically being neglectful of those people who claim they want to help. And it reminds me of a scene in Harry Potter when Dumbledore goes to the Dursleys, and you've got Dudley Dursley, the spoiled kid who has had everything that he wanted. He didn't actually have to learn how to work for what he wanted. He wasn't empowered, basically, as a human being. They coddled him, and they kept him from what's real. And so the Dursleys were quite taken aback when Dumbledore said, he referred to Dudley as being neglected. I think that's what it was, or something along those lines. And they were both neglected. We've never neglected our son. We've given him everything that he wanted, except for a being good role models, for goodness sake, except for teaching him life lessons, teaching him how to use his mind and his creativity to solve his own problems. So yes, Dudley was neglected, and in this case, those young people who were encouraged to be violent are also neglected in that way, because they are not given the right role models, and they're not given the philosophy needed to live life. So, there.
So shout out to JK. Your homework for the week. This week I chose a resentment and gratitude exercise. This works with other feelings and other ideas than gratitude and resentment. But this week it connects to what we've been discussing. So here's what you do. List time. Time to make lists again. And it'll be a list of 2 just to make it easy, and that's really all you need for this to be effective. Make a list of 2 or more things you resent. And it might be especially useful to make them about current events right now.
Okay.
Whether you resent wearing a mask, or you resent social injustice, or you resent the way the protests are often turning into riots, or the knocking down of statues, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Make a list of 2 or more things you deeply resent. Then switch gears, make a list of 2 or more things for which you are grateful. And you don't have to figure out something you're enormously thankful of, just 2 things you're happy about.
All right.
2 good things.
Do that.
Final step. You got 2 things you deeply resent, 2 things for which you're grateful.
Okay.
For each item, decide what you're going to do about it.
That's an interesting question.
Now, if your reaction is, well, the things I'm grateful for already happened, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
Or if your reaction is, the things I'm resentful aren't my fault, there's nothing I can do about it. That's why you do this exercise, is to remind yourself that what you do about something includes much more than going out there and solving it or changing it. What you do about it is you choose your reaction, you choose your stance, you choose your response. There are responses that you can take, even if it's just writing a letter to the editor, writing a post on social media, sharing ideas with your friends, deciding what your own emotional state is going to be. We'll talk about managing emotional states you don't want to repress, but you can change the thoughts.
Mary Aline has a question. She says, resent versus dislike, are they the same?
There are things you dislike that you don't resent. Resent gets us out of Sam Harris territory because it implies free will. You resent things that happened to you that shouldn't have happened, and that means the man-made.
Something that's unjust?
Well, it can be something that's unjust. It can be all sorts of violations against your values, but it would be from other people. We don't resent nature.
Yeah.
We're sad at nature. We may be momentarily angry about a storm that ruins our birthday party, but you don't really resent things that are metaphysical. You only resent the man-made. So they're similar, but not the same. There's overlap. Obviously, if you resent something, you also dislike it. But many or even most of the things you dislike, you don't necessarily resent. So, 2 things you resent, and we're picking resentment because we want to focus on current events.
Yeah.
The kinds of things that folks are bringing up a lot these days. 2 things you resent, 2 things you're grateful or happy about. For each one of those 4 or more items, this is the big question. Decide what you're going to do about it. Choose your state, choose your response, choose your reaction, choose what you have and want to say. And you can even make a list of things you won't do about it. And there's enormous power in that.
Yes.
So that's your homework assignment.
That's an interesting homework assignment.
I hope you will do that one with me.
That can be difficult. Because my first reaction to, what am I going to do about something I resent? Well, I'm going to rail against it.
Well, but that was easy. And every time I give these assignments, I want you to keep them easy.
Yeah.
It's why we didn't say pick 1 of each or 5 of each.
Yeah.
If you pick 2, you're less likely to think, well, what's the one? What's the big one? What's the most important? I need to...
So
if you
just-
pick 2, you
Yeah.
can be much more casual about it.
Okay.
It sounds counterintuitive, but 2 is easier than 1.
Yeah. But what I mean by that is that not so much that you have to be impatient and say, what can I do right now to change the world? I'm so impatient. But what is my state of mind about it? What should be my response to this? What should be my stance on this?
And you can do that.
Yeah.
You can go deep. You can go as deep as you want.
Yeah. Okay.
But you don't have to. You'll find the exercise will invite you to take it as deeply as will work for you. If you find yourself becoming obsessive, just be aware of that and back off a little.
And Mary Eileen says, does resent imply someone to blame? Possibly.
Yes, but not necessarily an individual.
Right.
Yeah, and
it could be a horrible idea.
yes, and how it's taking effect in society or in a segment of society or
Right.
in a particular part of society, like
Or
the government or the police force or crowds or whatever the thing is.
or it could be something that's directly affecting you.
Yes. I mean, there are things that I resent for which I don't have one individual to blame. The Internal Revenue Service,
Yes.
the IRS. There are some jobs that I don't think you can take honestly. Amy and I have had friends who've worked for the government and even played roles which in a proper government wouldn't exist,
Yeah.
but in today's context, they were doing the best they could.
Yeah.
A friend of ours was an assessor for the county, and because of the way the county does taxes, somebody had to go out there and figure out what houses are worth.
Yeah.
And he did that job well. He did it as diligently as can be done for a job that shouldn't have existed in the first place.
Right.
And somebody had to do that job unless everybody who could do the job would just walk and taxes would be abolished. I mean, things just weren't going to happen.
Yeah.
On the other hand, people who work for the IRS, it's like telemarketers. And I apologize for any telemarketer friends of ours, but there are some jobs that just can't be taken honestly unless it's really the only job you can get.
Right.
So,
Good.
I don't know if that provides any clarity, but it gave me a moment to rant, and that's always worth something.
Mary Eileen says, got it. And don't forget about the 2 things you're grateful for.
2 things you resent, 2 things you're grateful for.
Yes.
The most important part of the exercise is the next step. For each one, just briefly a few words, say it out loud, or write an essay, whatever works for you. What am I going to do about it?
Yes.
Next week, politics and romance.
Woo!
Oh my gosh. I was so tempted to do this one today, but it's going to require more prep
Is this
than I had ready. It's going to be,
That sounds kind of complicated.
I don't want to use the word awesome again. It's going to be orgasmic.
Is that the integration between sex and economics that Ayn Rand made?
Oh God, no.
No, not that deep. But
I'm smart, but I'm not that smart.
but I'm sure it'll be interesting just the same.
So, we'll watch for any last-minute questions here, but in the meantime, let me remind you that show notes will be posted immediately following the episode. Past shows can be found at facebook.com/Robert Nasir, and especially, in order to get our subscriber numbers up, youtube.com/Robert Nasir.
Yes.
You can even support us financially if you like at patreon.com/Robert Nasir.
You can do that.
Or message us for a PayPal address if you prefer that route.
Let us know. Yes.
Yes.
Shall I take a moment and thank everybody? Thanks, everyone. No.
Thanks, everyone. we genuinely appreciate it.
I was going to go down the list of everyone who joined us,
Oh,
but that may take some time. John, Cynthia, John, Jennifer, Sandy, Mike, Narendra, Cynthia, Mary Eileen, Mike, another Mike.
We need to make a list
Kim,
as we go, otherwise you're going to start
Greg.
repeating.
No, I'm doing it. Lily. Hey, Lily. I love you, Lily. And
Yeah.
Annie, Ryan,
No, that-
Linda, Andrea, and I think
This is going to be the longest
Sonia,
episode we've
thank you.
posted.
Thank you very much for joining us. Andrea, I think I already said that. Yeah, and I think that's it. Thank you,
Great, thank you.
everybody.
You know,
Power to
Power.
the people, or power to the individual people.
yes. Well, thank you all for joining. And as always, and until next week, we wish you success. We wish you flourishing. Fight the good fight. And we wish you love. Thank you so much.